Now, let's move on because a new poll out today has found the majority of Australians, about 56% of us, believe welcome to country ceremonies are divisive.
My thought on that is only 56%.
Only 56.
The Institute of Public Affairs poll of 1,005 people also found 49% believed welcome and acknowledgement of country should not be performed prior to sporting events, and 46% said welcome to country rituals were not appropriate at Anzac Day ceremonies.
So if close to half of the population say welcome or acknowledgements are not necessary at sporting or Anzac Day ceremonies, let alone every time your domestic flight touches down, are they really necessary before, well, let's say a speech at Press Club?
Thank you for the warm welcome, and I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today.
Seriously? Meanwhile, business leaders have told the Herald Sun that pressure to perform welcome and acknowledgement of country typically comes from woke staff members.
Yeah, there's no doubt governments are pushing this too. One leading childhood educator told the Herald Sun, quote, pressure to incorporate daily acknowledgements in lessons with 3- and 4-year-olds, often through song, came through government and peak body frameworks. You know, as I just said, I've been in Europe for the last 4 weeks and I took a number of flights to different countries there, different airlines, not Australian airlines, all the local airlines. And I actually noticed and I thought to myself, thank goodness, not one welcome to country, not one acknowledgement to country, just, you know, welcome to Rome where the current temperature is this, enjoy your holiday. Yes, of course I'm going to enjoy my holiday, and off I go. Get on a Qantas flight from Rome to Perth, land in Perth, bang, there it was. And that is the moment, James, that I knew that the holiday was over, when I was welcomed back to my own country and our elders past, present and emerging were referenced. And that's when you know the holiday's simply over. But I thought this was quite interesting. I was surprised, as you said, it was only 56% of people that found it divisive. I actually think it's a lot more than that, to be honest, because I don't know about you, but I feel like the general sentiment now is people have had a gutful of it. And a lot of people are not willing, though, to come out and say, yes, I've had enough, because they're worried that they're going to be called a racist. They're worried that they're going to be called a bigot. Well, there's nothing racist, and you shouldn't be called a bigot just for being proud of being one country and under one flag. And the other thing is, why should we be welcomed into the country that we live in? To me, I actually find it really offensive, because it's like saying, you're coming into my country, even though I was born here and raised here. It's like you feel like a foreigner in your own country.
Well, it's not like saying that. It is saying that. That's exactly what they're saying. That's why it's clearly divisive, because essentially it's used to make a point, and the point being, we were here before you, and you can't get much more divisive than that. And the proof, if you need further proof, is that if you don't perform an acknowledgement of country, all hell breaks loose. So it's been obvious from the start that this welcome acknowledgement has been used to make a political point. We were here first, you weren't. And it's become something of a purity test. I mean, we had a classic example in the week just gone where a street sweeper at a Melbourne council was sacked because he complained about an acknowledgement of country at the beginning of his toolbox meeting. And clearly, because he complained about it, he was then deemed as being, having a character that was somehow defective, that he should not be on council anymore. A business person told the Herald Sun today that this person was involved in a corporate meeting. Every single person performed an acknowledgement of country. The person talking to the Herald Sun said it was comical. And yet I got up and I did it as well, because I felt so pressured from everybody else there.
You feel like you have to be polite, and that's a problem.
And when you've got preschoolers, and the Victorian government now encourages welcome to an acknowledgement of countries for 3- and 4-year-olds at preschool, you can't tell me that's not a purity test or an indoctrination to think a certain way politically. It's absolutely divisive, and no wonder people are upset about it.
Well, it's actually indoctrinating children into these culture wars that we're seeing, and this is why you see the constant the rallies on Australia Day. It's always a divisive day, and it's because of this indoctrination. These kids coming through the system are basically being told that we're the enemy, that you're the enemy of the country.
So here's a simple test, right? Since we've been doing welcome to country, acknowledgement of country, just answer me this. Do you think Australians have come together?
No.
Or do you think it's driven us apart?
It's driven us apart. I mean, look at the fractures happening in our society right now, James. And let's not forget, though, that 60% of us voted no to this division, and yet it's gone the other way.
So when you're being welcomed and acknowledged with all this love, and yet the division is getting greater and greater, maybe there's something wrong with the welcome and the acknowledgement itself.
I just want to point out that 21 federal government departments spent an average of $1,266 on each of the 300 ceremonies over the past two years. That is a bill of $450,000 of our money, of taxpayers' money, to sit there and be polite. And that's all it is. We just sit there, we take it, we be polite.
So you're saying it's not only divisive, it's a bit of a cottage industry as well?
Clearly, I think that's spot on. Well, one person who's been saying no to this for a very, very long time is One Nation Leader Pauline Hanson, and she joins us now. Senator, nice to see you. Thanks for joining me. Look, I'm sure you're not surprised by this survey. You've been saying that the welcome to country has been overdone for years now. But realistically, what is it actually going to take to put an end to these? Who is going to be brave enough to say, yes, enough is enough?
Every Australian out there that's got a backbone about them and say, we're not going to deal with this anymore. Turn your back on it, as I do every time I'm in Parliament and they do welcome to country. I turn my back on it. I went to my grandson's school, the anniversary there, and they did a welcome to country. I was the only one that turned my back on it with all these other parents around. I don't care. I'm not going to put up with this rubbish. And your stance on this, what you have said, Danica and James, you guys are so in line with the way that I think. Oh, hold on a minute. Can I call you guys? Are you offended by that?
I'm so offended. Anyway. So offended.
I wasn't offended. I'm fine with it, Pauline.
So it's just ridiculous where we're going. It has been divisive, and I'm with you, Danica. There's more than 56% of the public out there are so over this, but they are in fear of calling it a bigot or racist. I totally agree with you. But if we're going to join together as a nation, we're all seen as Australians, we must fight back. Have your say. Don't go along with it. That council worker, good on him for actually fighting back over it and questioning it. And yet he's lost his job, he's won it in the courts, and I hope that they actually apologise to him and offer his job back. But Australians, I'll tell you out there, you are the ones, you are deciding your future and the future of this nation. If you want to put up with this rubbish, this crap, well then you're to blame for it. But you have every opportunity now. Our kids being taught it in school. You know, my grandson came home and he was about 9 at the time, 10, and he said, Grandma, he said, we've got to put our hands on the ground and do a welcome to country. I said, no, you don't. He said, but we have to. The teacher says, no, you don't. Stand up there and say, I'm not doing it. Well, he said, I don't want to do it. I said, then don't do it. And he doesn't do it. So it's been taught to it. They're being brainwashed in the educational system right in the early childhood, even before they go to actually grade 1. This has been brainwashed. This is put on to them by the activists, and we are going along with it. Come on, wake up, Australia.
So, Senator, I've got to ask you this. If 56% of Australians at least think this is ridiculous, it's divisive, tell me what you thought when Sussan Ley got up at her first speech at the press club and began with a welcome to country. What did you think when you heard that? What went through your mind?
I was disgusted, absolutely disgusted with it. Because the Liberals, you know, they're getting acknowledgements. They were the ones that actually opposed the voice to Parliament. What a load of rubbish that is. Because it wasn't just the Liberals that opposed it. It was a lot of people, myself, like Gary Johns, and then you had Barnaby Joyce, and you had Jacinta Price, and you had a number of people. Because once the public were informed about what it meant and changing in the Constitution, people were better informed and made their decisions about it. It wasn't the Libs that led the whole charge on it. They took up this fight that we had. I was the first one to expose the impact that it was going to have on our country by the documents that were given to me on the quiet by someone who found them in a cafe in Canberra from the NIAA group that were there. And therefore, I exposed that from the very beginning. And then it rolled out from there. So, you know, I'm disgusted with her. She's moderate. I don't believe she's the right person to lead the Liberal Party. I think you need a true Conservative, but she's been dragged along by the moderates because she's moderate. So anyway, it's going to be very interesting what happens in the next 3 years under Sussan Ley. I'll tell you, I don't think she'll last the distance. I think she'll be overthrown before the next election.
Yeah, and the other issue is you can't win elections, in my opinion, if you're moderate. Moderates cannot win elections. So, you know, you either have a clear policy difference with Labor or you're just going to be floundering in the wilderness for many, many years to come. I totally agree with what you're saying there, Senator.